Your host, John MacDonald.
Hello and welcome again. I am visiting today with Representative Randy Brodehl, Chair of the House Audit Committee. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I'm in my third session. I've been Chair of Audit last session and just started again and was reelected as Chair.
So a lot of people probably don't know what that committee does. Tell us a little bit about what the Audit Committee is in charge of.
The Legislative Audit Division has 57 employees that are always watching over the agency's performance, over their finances, what they do in their budgets, even their information technology systems. We audit that, and it's a rolling audit process. And in addition to that, we've got certain audits that we target because legislators have requested those audits.
Mm-hmm. And there were some developments this week regarding that whole process and some things that came out. Tell our viewers a little bit about what's going on there.
Well, what happened is the auditors for the Legislative Audit Division every year audit what's called the CAFR, and that's the books of the state of Montana, the financial books of the state of Montana. Last year when they audited it, they said there's some issues with this. It's still possible to correct that. So when they did that, they gave a not a real glowing report and with a warning. And this session, what we found is it was not only an audit that should come with caution, it was what's called an adverse committee report. Mm-hmm. The state of Montana budget has never received, in history, has never received an adverse committee report. And what that means is this committee says this budget and the numbers that have been put together we may not be able to recover from these, at least very easily, and it's going to be a long-term process. The audit took about 10 months. They found a lot of errors. They only take a snippet out of the budget, but it is representation of the entire budget. During this process, we found about 125 errors, major errors. It's not, as the budget director is called the numbers in the budget, oftentimes budget dust. It's not budget dust, it's over $1 billion. $1 billion that were put in the wrong spots. The legislature was told we have this much money in one area. In reality, it wasn't there, or it was actually in another area. So it made it so that the trust between the legislative body and the executive and the taxpayers of Montana somewhat evaporated. There were some questions about what's this going to do to our bond rating. We don't know because we've never seen this adverse committee report before.
And so with that report out now, what is the audit committee's role moving forward?
The audit committee is done with their role. They produce what's called a blue book. That blue book then goes to people like bond counsel, goes to the legislature. The legislature can use this for any bills coming up. Anybody that wants a copy of this blue book can get it. And it is certainly, when you look at the finances of the state of Montana that have been very sound in the past, this now comes with a lot of caution.
Mm-hmm. Let's change gears a little bit. This is, you just wrapped up your third session in the House. 2015 was your third. You have plans to seek one more legislative term. Tell me a little bit about your process as a legislator. When you are looking at bills or considering legislation, what is the process you go through?
You know, when my first session, that was one of the first questions that people asked me, well, how are you going to make decisions? And because they're trying to get an idea of what this possible new legislator is going to be doing. And it was a deer in the headlights look for me. So I went back and I said, okay, so how do I do this? And I wrote down 5 things, and I have tweaked them a little bit over the past 3 sessions, but I'll use them again. And I keep this on my desk. I keep it in front of me all the time. The first one is this legislation constitutional? Because I believe that if it doesn't fit in the Constitution, and we often bring legislation forward that may not necessarily fit well into the Constitution, then I'm a no vote. Mm-hmm. My second one is this reducing in any way the responsibility of individuals to make a good decision? Because when we begin to reach in and take responsibility away from us as individuals and make it easy to let somebody else make those decisions, I believe we're doing the wrong thing. The third thing is, will this legislation interfere with my freedom to make good decisions? So will it keep me, will it prevent me from making those decisions? And the fourth one is it fiscally responsible? And I said, I not only chair audit, but I also chair a subcommittee on appropriations, and I sit on appropriations. So my primary focus during the session is numbers. And is it fiscally responsible? It has to be. If it may be a wonderful, sound really good, but if it's a bad thing to do with dollars, then I'm a no vote. And so those, and then my last one is, can we afford it? And again, it may be a responsible thing to do. We may think that it's what we need to do, but if the dollars aren't there, again, I'm going to be a no vote. So am I a no vote? Probably I tend to lean more towards no votes. Yes votes on fiscally conservative issues. So that has helped me. And anytime I get into a spot where I'm looking at a bill, and I read my bills every night before we come into session the next day, and so that's the guidelines that I use to come up with a yes or no on a bill.
And when you say you lean more towards being a no vote, you're saying that frequently the legislation doesn't meet all of those 5 criteria.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
And if I go down through my list, at any point it doesn't meet muster, I'm going to
That's
be
where
no
it stops.
vote. I'm committed to that.
Yeah. And your campaign season is getting underway. We're at the Republican convention here in Helena this week.
We are.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not really ramped up at home on the campaign. I have a lot of support in my district, and I represent Northeast Kalispell and all of the Evergreen community. And they have stood with me, stood behind me, have been encouraging. So I know where they are. So I'm pretty well, I feel pretty good about my campaign coming up.
Good to hear. Well, I appreciate you taking some time out. We've been visiting today with Representative Randy Brodehl. We are at the State Republican Convention in Helena. Randy, I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Charter Local Edition has been an exclusive presentation of Charter Communications.